Hey there, chart friends. We're going to look at the market, and we are clearly seeing sign after sign showing us there's a shift in momentum leading to weekly consolidation, which we know has been overdue, and right at weekly resistance levels as far as the S&P 500 is concerned. So all these signals, I mean, we could point out a bunch of them. The first one, the RSI hitting 70 multiple times, rejecting, banging its head, and now pulling back. First close under the daily 12-period exponential moving average support on the entire way up. First bearish cross of the 4-hour, 12, and 26-period exponential moving averages in the last 2 months. IWM is dumping. It led the way to the upside. It is now leading the way to the downside. The daily inside bar broke bearish. So all of these indications are telling us that weekly consolidation is coming. If you've been watching long enough, you know my style is not to predict anything, it's to react. So what I am looking at now is every single day, I'm looking for clues to try and gauge, is the SPY consolidation on the weekly time frame going to be a bull flag and very healthy? I would say if we hold a back test of weekly exponential 12 and 26 supports, that would keep us extremely healthy. So let's use that as a target, 272. If we hold above 272 on the weekly, bulls are still in full control. If we break below 270 and start to pull back into the 260s, the odds of a weekly equilibrium then become more likely. So the question is it weekly consolidation, potential bull flag into continuation, or is it weekly consolidation into equilibrium? And we are going to gauge that by the amount of bear volume, the amount of follow through. The daily time frame to be any kind of convincing pullback is going to not only need to break support, which we've already lost the daily uptrend by breaking the higher lows, but we need a bounce to a daily lower high and then a lower low to confirm not only have we lost the uptrend, but yes, now we're in a downtrend on the daily time frame. So these are all clues that we're going to look to one day at a time. And if you see any analysts saying, we're going to pull back to this level, or I know we're going to pull back this much, or this is coming and this is happening, and they're speaking in absolutes, they don't know what they're talking about, in my opinion, because they should know by now, if they've been trading long enough, that they have no idea what's going to happen. The market constantly is humbling us, and all we can do is react. So the key support is the low of Monday, and that level is going to be tested down at 276.84. After that is 276.35, and then there's a gap down at 275.64. So pretty much if we break 276.84, I'm looking at 275.64 to fill the gap on the daily time frame as the next target. On the hourly time frame, we have resistance levels, a little weak bounce attempt at the end of the day, set a new level of 277.97. We'll just call that 278. So anything on the hourly under 278 is a lower high. The SPY hourly RSI level has not gotten oversold yet. We've bounced right at and just under 30, pretty much 29 to 30. We bounced twice at this point, but we did close weak with some bearish momentum. So that Monday support level is potentially in play for tomorrow. IWM daily trend changed. So there's our lower high and lower low. So we are now in a daily downtrend. So clearly weekly consolidation is underway. And here we are just like that, already at those exponential supports. Ideally, bulls want to see a hold of 151 to see potential for continuation. And if we pull back into the mid to low 140s, then we set up the equilibrium scenario. Bears are in full control of IWM. Again, we led the way to the upside on IWM, and now we're leading the way to the downside. The 4-hour RSI is getting oversold. We're already under 30 with extended hours on. We closed down near the low of the day. If we see weakness tomorrow, I will be looking to potentially begin scaling in because of how extended we are. The hourly RSI is in the teens. So if tomorrow SPY flushes under the low of Monday and IWM drops down to lower lows, I'll be looking at beginning to scale in for just a 4-hour oversold bounce. But I'm going to be very patient. Support is 152.40, and then there's a gap at 151.15. Again, we ran so hard on the way up, we did not establish really any support at all from 148.50 to pretty much the $10 range, 148 to 158, and now we're heading back down to backfill that space on increased bear volume. A red Maribozu 2 days in a row. You cannot have more bearish candlesticks than a red Maribozu. IWM bears are in full control. QQQ is holding up the market. QQQ is heavily weighted in the tech sector. Netflix and Facebook were green today. Amazon and Google have been green in the past. It almost looks like money's leaving Amazon and Google and going into Facebook and Netflix the last 3 days. But it's all about the low of Monday here as well, 172.47 and then 170.176. And right now, QQQ is one of the only markets here that isn't really showing us any clear red flags. So if that changes and the tech sector starts to show weakness, the S&P 500 can get ugly pretty quickly. But as long as we hold on strong here, and as long as we're not dumping on QQQ, we know that the SPY bears are not going to have any kind of big win days. Have to see tech sector and financial sector both going down in significant ways to see significant market dumping. XLF has already seen this pullback start. So XLF is weaker, tech is stronger, and SPY is somewhere in the middle because of that little tug of war. We have lost the daily uptrend on XLF. So are we in a downtrend on the daily? No. Have we lost the uptrend? Yes. So we're in a little bit of limbo. If we set the lower high and lower low on the daily, that's when we confirm, yes, we are in a downtrend. Closing down near the lows, 26.22 is a double bottom the last 2 days. Break 26.22, and we're looking at 25.73 as the next level. Weekly consolidation is underway, and we're looking to see how significant that weekly consolidation is going to be. VIX daily inside bar broke bull. So we're looking back up at the recent high of $17 as key resistance. We have our low, high, double bottom, bull break, but a quick pullback. And look at the exponential moving averages here. Rejection, 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 rejection. Now we might be turning them into support. And if they make the bull cross of the 12 and 26 period, it will be a notable shift. U.S. oil, bear break today on the inventory report, but the bulls quickly bought that dip. So we only ended up breaking by pennies, about a 13-cent bear break, and it's another factor. So if oil breaks $55, that tells me oil is in weekly consolidation. That's only going to add to further downside on SPY because the energy sector will then be in consolidation mode. So right now we have clear daily lower highs, 57.85, 57.17. Anything under 57.17 keeps these lower highs intact, and $55 is the key support level. If that breaks, I will be looking for further SPY consolidation. Natural gas consolidating, losing the 4-hour uptrend today. So losing the 4-hour uptrend means zoom out to the daily chart, and the daily chart is trying to form a higher low compared to 2774, keeping in mind this weekly longer-term time frame where we are anticipating a weekly lower high is going to form, and this is not an entirely strong bounce at this point. Another daily higher low holding 2774, and then breaking to see continuation up towards $3 would go a long way for giving the bulls confidence that this is not just a potential, weekly bear flag and weak bounce attempt. So, one day at a time, as always, bears have short-term momentum. IWM short-term oversold bounce on the hourly and 4-hour time frame are on watch. SPY low of Monday will be key. Oil $55 support is key. Tech sector holding things together at this point, and if we see that change, then we'll look for SPY to accelerate to the downside a little bit. Hope you're well. We'll check back in tomorrow. Do a good thing out there. That's all I got. So where we left off, I went through Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, then went through Land Between the Lakes, and then went over to Mark Twain National Forest in Missouri. This is Chapter 4. So making our way westward, taking out a pretty good chunk of the country so far at this point. So here we go, Irish Wilderness, Mark Twain National Forest. My hat was pretty fitting. It was actually my grandfather's hat. He got it in Ireland when my parents got married, and I wore it until it fell apart. That was my favorite hat, and I've never found one like it. So in this spot, there were some really cool rivers and just lush green. It was nice and hot. It was June at this point, so some really good spots to just swim. And there were some caves that were really cool where you could just feel really cold spring water coming out of them. A little bit eerie, but a great spot to camp. Nice and flat and shade and not too many ticks crawling all over you. So I had to take a picture of this guy, and I forget his name, but had an interesting encounter with him. I was just there all by myself. Again, in the middle of these national forests, in the middle of the week, there is nobody around. So I'm there by myself, just, reestablishing my game plan or picking where I'm going to go. And this guy comes bombing down the hill with this bike with these huge tires, and his toddler sitting on the handlebars. He must have been going 30 miles an hour, insanely fast, and he whips up and comes over to me, and he's this Russian guy, and I can't even possibly do his accent. But if you've seen the movies, whether it's Catch-22 or all those movies with the Russian mobsters, this was him. And he told me about how he could steal my car in 55 seconds with a screwdriver and all of his other breaking the law stories and adventures. So I didn't really ever, this entire road trip, which lasted 7 months, I never really had any fear, but I was always, on alert. If I'm by myself, I don't want to tell people exactly where I'm camping when they know I'm by myself. And I always got pepper spray and a knife within an arm's reach just in case. But other than that, I was a little uneasy with this guy, just the way he approached me. But other than that, there was never any fear of animals or being attacked in the middle of the night or anything like that. But had an interesting conversation with him. He ended up, saying he had the greatest weed, and he pulls out this really terrible weed and takes out a can and he crushes it and pokes the holes in it, and he wants me to smoke it. So it was just a fun, memorable experience. And that was the first human interaction that I had in 2 weeks. And it gets to the point where, the only interaction that I have is going through grocery stores and the woman at the checkout counter. So it was nice to have an actual conversation. He invited me back to his place, but I politely declined because I didn't want to get jumped. Capture that moment, 111 miles on my Honda Civic. Trusty steed. So here's just more of those rivers and caves, and again, just nobody around. You can swim all you want, float down the river, get back to your camp spot, make a fire, go to bed, read a book, think about life, and think about what you're going to do tomorrow at the next new spot that you have no idea what it looks like. This was a spot that I found, and I'll go through and give some resources because there's some great websites out there. Swimmingholes.org is where I got this one. You also have hot springs websites that are very similar. Freecampsites.net. These are all resources where you can find free camping sites all around the country, and people describe it and they say, when they were last there. This was one I found on swimmingholes.org, and it's the local places that you would never know about. This is a place where all the locals go and swim and hang out, and it's not advertised anywhere. There's no signs, no anything. So I pulled in here and ended up camping. This was actually my birthday night, my 25th birthday, and there was an awesome waterfall and a swimming hole down at the bottom. There's a video somewhere of me dancing to James Brown at sunrise by myself, but just pumped to be alive. When you wake up to this spot by yourself, it's just hard not to be happy. So, thought this was cool. We had a giant tree break in half and knock down a medium tree that broke in half and knock down a small tree and broke in half. And that's how I knew Bigfoot existed. That's a pretty cool thing. So that's all I got for Missouri. Not a whole lot going on, just making my way to Colorado. Really, Colorado and Utah was the highlight of this road trip. And in the previous road trips, I went up to the Redwoods and things like that, but stayed in the middle of the country this time around. So we'll head through Kansas. Kansas is sure exciting. If you've road tripped through Kansas, so much to see, so many things to do. I'm just kidding. It's flat and boring, and really you just count the hours until you're through Kansas. So that's that. We'll see you tomorrow, and hope you're doing well.